All right, if glaciers are going to erode and move things, eventually that ice is going to melt and they're going to leave that stuff behind. And so then it forms depositional features caused directly by glaciers. So here's some terms you're going to need to know. One is till, okay, and this is the unsorted material left behind by glaciers. That's why it's got the U here, because that means it's unsorted. Kind of like the floor of your bedroom, okay? So some of those features are kettle ponds. Now kettle ponds are formed when you have the glacier is starting to melt and chunks of the glacier break off, fall on the ground, and they're so heavy they create like a dent in the ground that later will fill in with rainwater or something to create these kettle ponds. If you've been to Nine Pipes, there's hundreds and hundreds of these kettle ponds around the Nine Pipes area. Another example is a drumlin. Now drumlin has an S here. The S means it's sorted. That means it doesn't look like the floor of your room. It means that there's large objects, large rocks at the bottom, then medium-sized, then smaller and smaller and tiny, so it gets sorted. And these form underneath the glacier. Water is flowing under there. It carves out this teardrop shape mound that is left behind after the glacier retreats. And what's cool about it is you just have to look for the point here, and the point essentially points in the direction that the glacier was moving. So if you find drumlins, we can tell which way the glacier used to be going. This is one of those times you might want to pause the video and write this information down. The next feature is an esker. An esker is basically like there's an underwater creek underneath the glacier, and as it winds its way under the glacier, it deposits all this till behind, again, and it's sorted, so big on the bottom, tiny on the top, and then when the glacier melts away, you're left with this like upside down river channel, and that's what an esker is. The next feature is an erratic, and these are boulders that were in the glacier, and as the glacier starts to melt and recede, the rocks just fall out wherever that is. And so you get these weird rocks that usually don't match the other rocks in the area because they were carried so far by a glacier. A good example of this, if you go down the hill from the high school, past the middle school, past the church, there's a cow pasture right there, and right in the corner of that fence is a big old rock, and that's an erratic boulder. Again, pause the video if you need to. Another two features, meltwater is obviously water melted from the glacier, and then we have what's called a moraine. There's two types of moraines. There is a lateral and a terminal moraine, but essentially when a glacier is moving, you have the glacier moving in this direction, right? Moving like this. And in front of that glacier, it's going to push all this material in front of it, and that is a terminal moraine. What's good about a terminal moraine, here I'll put a T here for terminal, is that we can tell how far the glacier moved because that gets left behind. You can see the same thing here in this diagram as the terminal moraine. Now a lateral moraine is going to be on the side here, and so put an L there for lateral, okay? And if you want an example of a terminal moraine, the Polson Hill is actually a terminal moraine. So that big hill was pushed by a ginormous glacier, so that gives you an idea how big the glacier was that moved down this valley. Pause if you need to. Here's all the stuff. You're going to be working on your glacier poster. You're going to be drawing all of these features, or at least labeling and identifying them and explaining how they form, and all of that on your poster. Awesome directions are on the website.